you found those other CIPs?
Yeah, I just-
Barrington
And,
and Deerfield
Yep,
and,
yep, just to kind of see, what I was looking for was, like, what is their, like, what number do they use? Like, is it 10,000, is it 20,000?
Thank you, though, John.
You know, what did they use for a number?
uh-huh.
And then what time period, how do they rank, that kind of stuff. So that's what I was looking for.
And you would think over the years, those costs would go up, so we should raise those at some point.
Right.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And I think we did it, I don't know, probably 7 years ago or 10 years ago, it seems like it went up to something.
I don't know, those were like the original,
The 10,000,
yeah,
really?
from,
I thought it
from
was,
when we,
I thought it was like
So-
7 or something.
Well, years ago.
so I remember doing 10,000 when I first was on the committee, and that was when Mary Bonzer was selectman.
Uh-huh.
So it was 10,000 for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. Oh, right, when the selectmen took it over, you mean?
Yeah, I
It used to
don't,
be on the planning board.
right, and then it got,
7 there.
oh, maybe that's where it was 7, but once we, yeah, I don't know if it just wasn't being done or what happened, but it became a new thing with the selectmen doing it, although there was,
Yeah. It was happening, but not very well.
yeah,
It was not a coordinated effort at all. It was low very, very low priority.
right, so I was,
Kind of like master plan was.
I was,
very-
yeah, so anyway, I was part of it then.
Yeah,
I stayed on it for a few years, and then, you know, I was from the budget committee rep,
yeah,
and then I think I left budget committee for a bit, and somebody else obviously did it. But then didn't get back onto it until
yeah.
selectmen. So,
Owen made the comment this year that he's never before heard so much about the CIP as he did this year.
well, it's good, because it is an important thing, and I think it did get, kind of fell off the radar a bit,
Yep.
so,
Yeah, so, I mean, that was the other thing, is I was looking at those examples, and I was like, holy cow, look at these reports. And I was thinking, like, that is a bit of work, but I liked it that way, like having the population
Oh, yeah.
charts and all of that.
It's so much more helpful.
And I think if we have that much information in there, then it's more valuable and it's gonna get more credibility.
so, but in theory, it shouldn't need all that stuff, because all that stuff should already be part of, because technically, it's supposed to be part of the master plan.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
And by us keeping that piece up, and the master plan is getting some rejuvenation, so we could pull it, you know, at least say, you know, here's the CIP portion that goes with the master plan, and it gets updated, it really focuses on those numbers, but those populations and stuff should all be part of the master plan pieces.
yeah, I agree, but there's also two ways to look at it. One way is, where does it belong, right? And the other way is, what's the most effective way to communicate to people, right? And, because like, if you say, oh, it's in the master plan, are people gonna go look at the master plan? Is the master plan gonna be updated,
Right.
and all of that? So I'm just thinking about it from a communication perspective.
Yeah, there's a lot to this. There is a section in the master plan that is CIP, and that kind of looks like what these things kind of are.
Yeah,
But the CIP portion that is in there presently is basically just the chart of what it looks like at that point in time. Because the rest of the stuff, that, at least from what I saw in here, was in there. But, so, I didn't have time to look, but
Yeah.
what's kind of interesting about this, as we discuss this, is I wonder if these 3 towns have their master plan updated frequently, 1.
it's a great question.
And then 2, all, all 3 of these seem to indicate a time frame of their CIP, which is fine, because
Yep.
that's what it's for,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But I'm wondering if these reports are updated every year, because some of that census information, you should be able to get the building stuff, the census information is kind of like every 10 years,
Right,
so that gets a little.
Yeah.
yeah, here comes Sue.
I think, hey Sue, I think the first year would be the hardest year to do it, right? And then, and then you're right, the information that you can
What a year you've
update, you just kind of plug in
Right.
what's updated.
Right, that's what we thought we did with the master plan, it never got, never
Yeah,
got up.
so,
Just looking at these other examples that Donna
Yeah, I
sent
saw
us.
that.
I didn't have too much of a chance to go over
Right.
them, but they were impressive, I thought.
yeah, I mean, just looking at, seeing that they had covers and stuff was like, just, yeah. I mean, it was more of like,
Fancy seals up.
I'm like, oh my gosh, these look fancy just from the,
Yeah, and I'm also wondering if
Formatting?
this information is in the town report. Was this submitted in the town report?
So that was
So
the
those are kind
other
of-
thing that I thought about, because these are long and we would never be able to put this much in the town report.
Right.
So we would have to have like a one-page
Condensed.
synopsis and then point to wherever the first report.
Right, where this information.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
right, I mean, and it could be living,
It would freak out if we were like,
well,
Here's our 17 page.
and honestly, it could be just constantly living on the town website
exactly,
Yep.
and just be, always being updated.
exactly.
And realistically, the CIP group meets every year now. So it would be relatively simple to update this
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
And same with, not same with, but the master plan could be the same
It-
way.
it should be,
Where
yes.
it
It's
is
just-
something that is looked at by a group of people every single year.
Mhm.
There's a committee now, right? Or is there a group of
There's
volunteers?
a
Yeah, I don't
group,
know how
yeah.
many are, did they get as many people?
Yeah,
as
they
that?
got.
It's like 10-ish,
Oh,
I
great.
think,
Okay.
supposedly,
15
That's good.
people,
10 anyway.
Wonderful.
for the housing section. I'm not sure if they understood that totally, but
Right, yeah.
but at least 10 people
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
identified as choosing to go to a meeting on March 5th.
Wow.
How's that? Is that a good way to
I'm
say
getting
that?
that survey information out too, so people can fill out the.
Yeah, that's a separate deal, but that's for Stratford Regional Planning. They're doing their 10-year
And
update.
a lot of it doesn't, talks about sidewalks and, sewer systems and things like that that aren't, but I think people should put their 2 cents worth in.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't mention retired people in that.
What are those?
Well, we were just
How
talking
do you
about
walk,
that.
how do you walk to work?
Yeah.
You walk
Very
along
slowly.
in my slippers.
Yeah.
Over to the coffee pot.
But those are the things I saw, and that's far beyond what we should be looking at here, but,
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so
Yeah,
let's focus on what we should,
Yeah, so it was kind of like the years, how many years does it look out, what's the number? What's the cutoff number? And then the other thing for us, we kind of talked about this, was we were putting things like, Pawtuckaway Lake. the-
right,
The
so-
invasive species fund, so does that belong there? I mean, I'm leaning towards no.
right, because it's not,
It's not a capital investment.
right.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's
correct, it is not a capital investment,
Right, yeah, it has
but,
to be something.
but do we then add an item for, whatever, it's whatever. They doing the chemical in the lake.
oh,
The chemical, the
So, Isn't it, like, capital asset, isn't that like a physical thing?
That's what I think, it
Well,
was
that's
just
what
a
I always
tangible.
So,
Yeah.
Then the
go back to
state
it.
kind of changed the rule to indicate things like reports. If you need
Like a study?
a study or, if you're thinking about building a new school, that planning process
Would be a-
can be covered by CIP.
Because it's in support of a capital asset.
It doesn't say that, but
Okay.
yes, I would
Okay.
agree that that was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reasoning for that.
Yeah,
So, so in the way I think it worked at the lake is even though the lake isn't what you would classically consider a capital asset, it is an asset for the town.
right, and, yeah. And,
You know,
I mean, it's,
Then how far do you go?
right, right, exactly,
because
it's
that's what
like,
we got into with the,
I'd like a new driveway. Am I an asset to the town?
let me get that. No,
You
but
yourself are an asset.
I would like a driveway.
But it's cost and life too, looking at this, it's the length, it's the, how long it,
Right.
Right.
so it has the
Was it
two
like 3 years?
thresholds, cost and useful life threshold.
Yeah.
Um,
Then
so-
there was another one, what was the other one that the other thing that I saw too was like indicating what the maintenance costs would be. You know, so if you're looking at, you know, a new ball field, then identifying what are the maintenance costs going to be there in addition to the build.
So
costs.
rolling up all of the incidental costs associated with a long-term project that meets the threshold for cost and usefulness of life, it's all the other pieces that go into it,
Wow,
to put it
because,
together.
I mean, some of this stuff could be for infinity, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a new
Like-
truck, right? How do you know what the maintenance is gonna be on the new truck?
Right, and,
That's challenging.
Yeah, I'm not saying we have to do it, I'm just saying that.
Right,
it's
but
Yeah.
Something
food
that,
for thought, right?
Yeah.
We were gonna.
It would be more like though the BOS and the school board trying to figure out those elements.
I think that was in
Elements of
the
cost.
RSAs that you sent, John.
Yeah.
that's what I was looking to see if
Yeah,
I
I think it
could
was in
find
that.
out, 'cause it's,
Yeah.
you know, I conveniently pasted them, because there really wasn't a ton of them.
No, it's helpful.
Where the heck?
Yeah, I'm looking at Barrington's right here, and it's interesting that
Why can't I find that
I'm
email?
on the RSA yet, I'm in the fourth page. Oh, here it is, fourth page,
Oh.
674-6.
Right, John
Yeah,
just-
674, like 4 through 8 or something, I don't know. Where the heck is it? Why can't I find it?
Oh, here we
I could just go to the thing, it's 674?
I found in this budget book, evaluating project requirements, they've got RSA 674-7 and a specific piece of it. So they're saying that the governing bodies should provide ideally justifications for the project, estimates of project cost, estimates of future operation and maintenance costs for
That's-
each project,
Yep,
the relationship of this project to other existing and proposed projects and implementation schedules and the degree of urgency.
yep.
So it would be also important to obtain information regarding the replacement, repair, or renovation of existing capital assets. And it says the planning board or the committee should also consider the estimated tax impacts of proposed projects.
Which is hard if you're thinking 5 years out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, and it's
And it's
7,
not-
right? Isn't it
How-
7 years?
How would we determine that? No,
You
that seems
can't,
a little weird.
because you don't know what the budget is,
Yeah, you have
right?
no
You need
idea.
to know what the budget and revenues are, so.
Well, you could take the value of it and divide it into your current valuation.
To the current, yeah, okay, so in the current dollars is what the impact would be,
Yeah.
but
Who knows?
it would be a, it
It
would
would
be a
always, it would be
future.
adjusting based on that
Yeah.
assessed valuation of the
I think that
town.
would
Yeah.
confuse people,
I do too, but
Yeah.
shows you how important it is to go over this every year.
yeah.
You find it, John?
I have the RSA's up. I was just looking for how many years now. I was just kind of just bouncing through them. I couldn't find my email for some reason.
Yeah, and historic populations and I have a spreadsheet that goes back to 1990 with population.
You do?
Yeah.
You are so darn organized.
What?
You are so darn
I
organized.
know.
Yeah, she
They
has
have
that.
spreadsheets
She
back
keeps that very handy. She keeps that very handy to answer Tom's questions.
I've got one here that goes down, yeah, I've got 1990 up to 2007 in this one. So in 1990,
6
we were at
years.
2939. And now we're at what, 53? And I was trying to take the percentage of the school population from trying to see a correlation. That's what we did the last time to do our
Mhm.
projections. We used this spreadsheet. So we do have it.
Yeah, okay, so in
I just forwarded you guys,
674.5.
yeah, I just forwarded you the emails that John sent us.
So in 674.5, it says 6 years.
Oh, that's great.
I have the RSA's up on my computer right now, so
Yeah,
I
I
just,
just-
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
so you said it, I just copy pasted, so it was. It's good when there's not a lot of text.
Yeah, these are all 6-year, well, I shouldn't say that, sorry.
Some go longer.
Barrington's happens to be 10.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
honestly, 10 is like a normal long-term plan number.
Yeah,
Instead of the 6, yeah, it's saying
Yeah.
between
So-
6 and 10.
How would you feel about that if we came to the school and said, we need your 10-year?
10-year,
It's like
10-year
anything
plan.
else, as you go further out, it may be more.
Right.
Guesstimate?
I feel like the school at this point, having done some of the, we get estimates from the administrative offices, so business office and so forth, but looking at what we did, and then talking to these guys on the HVAC systems, who also like to do other things. Some of them are true HVAC guys, and some of them are energy people, and they look at windows, and they look at a roof, and they look at solar. They gave us some estimates on things that were far and away different. Like, we had 72,000 on windows, which we thought seemed a little low, but it was like, no, that'll work. They had 500,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a difference.
So somewhere between 72 and 500,000, we have to figure out what that is. So my feeling is we have got to maybe look at getting some estimates. It might be a good time to just have someone come in and look at everything and get some hard,
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
and, a kind of a plan of when those things need to be replaced.
well, we have them in. I think our plan for our timing makes some sense. But I think the windows are gonna be next, and then we're gonna finish with the roof. And some things like, remember I talked about those air handlers, and we had them in
Mhm.
here at 150, and then we rolled it all in?
Yeah.
Well, when we came to the conclusion we needed an expert, he came in and he said, the air handlers in your attic are half the size of a car. And you built the attic around them. So if you wanna replace them, you have to take the roof off
Oh
or the
my God.
cabins to take them out. So really what you need to do is continue to maintain them in pieces. So do a coil, do this, do that, fabricate the coil, and rebuild them in place. And some of the estimates that we got called for taking air handlers and putting them on the ground. And that's when Palmer and Sicard said, we don't know that you have the pressure in the system to support having it on the ground. And then these guys say, and to get them on the ground will cost you how much to take a roof off?
Right, because then you might as well just replace them, putting new ones on the ground.
And then the whole system, because the
And
system
then-
probably
right, you're-
can't push
yeah.
enough pressure to them on the ground.
Right.
So these are just the nuances I've been kind of thinking
Yeah,
about.
there's a
I guess
lot.
that's more than a nuance, but,
But, I mean, some of it sounds like people just trying to upsell,
trying to,
upsell.
well, you gotta know what you're working with. And I
Right.
think that's
Yeah.
why, one of the things is, as a board, we would get things, we'd get some options, we'd follow our procedures, we'd get multiple, quotes. And then we make a decision. But there are all these other things like, are you gonna take
Yeah,
a
it's a
roof
lot.
off that no one's saying anything
You,
about?
you don't know what you don't know.
Right,
Right.
so the time has come to figure all that out before any more decisions are made, I think.
So if we think about that 10-year, like, I think, John, it's probably easier for the select board because you're talking about trucks and ambulances, and
Right.
you can predict the
Right,
life of
yeah,
those.
we can, right, some of those things we know, and it will give more, visual, visibility to those things, that we're gonna say that, okay, yeah, we're gonna need an ambulance so say we need an ambulance every 10 years approximately, there will always be one on the plan.
Yep.
Right.
Or something that shows up, or something we need every 8 years, you'll see two, and then one, and then you'll see two again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we do program supports every 6 years,
All right, so,
and you probably know how you depreciate those big capital assets. Probably it's a similar
yeah,
plan.
I don't know the specifics, but
So,
We
I
hear
know,
it can be done.
so I
It's
think
like 20 years.
the question is, let's just do a 50-year plan, we're done.
Yeah.
We won't be here.
we won't be here to see the end of it, but,
So the question number one, 6 years or 10 years? What do we think is right?
I would love to see 10 if
10.
we could do 10.
I'd vote for 10.
I'm fine with 10.
Okay.
All right, so,
You good?
I'm good with 10, yeah,
Yeah, I think next year we try it, right?
the only thing bad about, to me, 10 years, is you're gonna have a long list of items, only because, some of the stuff, I think, will now be identified as an asset because it's so far out,
Right.
where you wouldn't have thought of it before. Like, buildings might show up now
Mhm.
on there
yeah,
from a maintenance standpoint and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I don't care, that's that computer issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but buildings is a good example, right? Okay, select board, what are we gonna do with all the buildings?
I mean, sometime we have to deal with that, right?
I mean, the painting costs and that kind of stuff have come up a lot.
mhm.
Yeah.
So, if we talk about the value of stuff, then it's like, all right, how often do you paint? Well, probably not every 6 years.
Yeah, probably every 10 though, at least.
Yes.
You would hope you would paint
So,
like every
yeah.
10.
You would probably see every building on that list somehow, where
Mhm.
nowadays you wouldn't see it, and then you lose that.
Right,
to
right,
me.
which is,
So stretching it out is,
it helps that
I
visibility,
know, I think that's,
yeah.
we need to look
So-
at those things.
yeah. So then we gotta go back to what is an asset? What is a capital asset?
It has to have a so you wanna change the threshold amounts? You just change the life, the useful from 6 to 10.
And life, and then the amount,
Oh, we didn't change the useful age, right? We only changed the how long we're showing in the plan, right? What are we changing the life?
I'm sure both
No.
of the, I didn't bring our financial statements, but I'm sure, I know that our accountants define it and keep an inventory.
Yeah.
And they say what it is,
yeah.
so,
Okay.
Carrying-
but I mean, we could do something different.
Yeah, so back to John's question about what is a capital asset, right? So I Googled, what is a capital asset? And it came back with, capital asset is defined as property of any kind held by an SSC the term encompasses all kinds of property, movable or immovable, tangible or intangible, fixed or circulating, land and building, plant and machinery, motor car, furniture, jewelry, route permits, goodwill, patents, trademarks.
Yeah.
So that would be the intangible.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, but,
So,
yeah, so intangible things,
but intangible being a patent or a trademark.
Yeah.
Or a study.
I think that's
Or
kind
a
of
study,
already on.
sure.
or, right, and that's why I'm kind of going back to the,
So this is,
for example, the
The lake.
aquatic species thing.
Yeah.
whatever you were talking about.
Right, right. So if that,
So in Pelham, it says, for the purposes of this document, a capital improvement is defined by its cost and its useful life. Items included have a cost of at least $75,000 and generally have
Oh,
a
they're
useful
low.
life.
Wow, yeah, I know, I
Wow.
saw that.
They're a lot bigger.
Useful life of 3 years. Goes on to say, eligible items include new buildings or additions, land purchases, some studies, substantial road improvements, and purchases of a major vehicle or equipment. I like how it said some studies.
Yeah.
That makes it clear.
Yeah,
And now Barrington wants a cost of $10,000 and a useful life of at least 10 years.
Yeah, that was interesting too.
and, so a useful life of 10, so 3 years to 10 years, that's very significant difference.
yeah.
I think ours,
No, it's
isn't ours 3?
interesting, because studies probably aren't $75,000.
What's that?
Studies probably are not $75,000. And some of the other improvements that might exist,
Wouldn't,
like the painting we were talking
yeah,
about for
wouldn't be that
buildings,
threshold.
you wouldn't get to that threshold for that asset.
And that may be why
So-
they did that.
Maybe that's why they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think where we,
So does it say 75,000 or 7,500?
75,000.
1,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
And a
Okay.
useful life of at least 3 years.
if you're paying
All right,
75,000, then it
75,000.
has more than
Right,
three.
right.
Well, it all depends what it is, but yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
so okay,
But I mean-
75,000, not 70.
I don't
I
know.
heard,
Pretty
so,
high.
Yeah, that's high.
I think it's high.
yeah, that's very high.
That's pretty high,
I mean, we're at 10,000.
yeah.
But again, it may have been
10
the
kind of
purpose.
works, because part of this is what are the people that are paying attention looking for? And I think they're looking for a window to understand what people are gonna be doing over the next 10 years and where their money's gonna be going, and I think most people would consider 10 or 15.
Right, and that's what we were wondering, I mean, it's been 10,000 forever,
Mm-hmm.
and we were thinking, do we wanna look at maybe bumping it up a little? Not to 75,000,
No, like 15,000 would seem
right,
reasonable.
but a number like that in at least 10 years, I think, is an achievable set of numbers. You probably wouldn't see the police cruiser on that list.
right. Well, no, the police cruisers are,
40, 50,000?
Well, at 50, but I'm
Yeah.
still talking the 75.
oh, yeah, you
Oh,
wouldn't,
oh,
right,
right,
right, you.
I'm just
yeah,
saying that.
Yeah,
Oh,
you,
yeah, yeah,
the 75,000, you wouldn't see the police
Right.
cruiser on it.
Right,
It would solve that problem of
Right.
not having everything.
Right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see, you probably wouldn't see some of the highway trucks, you know, like
Right.
the
Yeah,
smaller
right.
ones.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
I
thing.
don't
Yeah.
Well, I think 75 is way too high.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
no,
way
no,
too high
that's
too.
fine.
So I'm looking at ours, right, our final one, and there are 3 items that are $10,000. One is a regular contribution to the technology EFT. One is a warrant article for pickleball court paving. And then the other one is the invasive species fund. So, you know, we don't, the 2 of them are contributions to a fund,
Right,
which I question whether those should be there anyway.
right.
Yeah.
Are those the quote-unquote untangible things or not?
to me, they are,
They're definitely untangible.
well, sure, but they're part of the budget every year,
Mhm.
you know, so, like,
Yeah, which,
I think maybe our number could be, 15 or 20
I do too.
instead of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and
I
I'm
mean,
kind
it's
of, that's
15.
where I was thinking too, in the
Yeah.
15 to 20 range.
Yeah.
Does that mean those numbers go up for those parties that put those in? I want this in light. I don't know the answer to that, but.
But I think that would be a reasonable place to start, is 15 or 20,000, and try next year, go to 10 years, 15 or 20,000, and see how that plays out within how many lines.
Yeah, and as far as like, so for 15, we had base radio replacement, that was there. We had a 12 for flooring replacement. So again, we only had, if you look at that, if you say 15's the threshold, there's like 4 things under that.
Mhm. So the base, right, so radios, which aren't really big items either. I mean, but it's, yeah,
Costly.
yeah, I mean,
Probably has a useful life of 3 years because
At
the
least.
electronics disappears.
Yeah,
at least, you would hope.
Yes, seriously.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like, what are we trying to show? I mean, are we really trying to show vehicles and property, kind of, basically?
I think vehicles for sure.
Definitely vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Property would be.
Property definitely would be, property building type things would
Yeah.
definitely be.
I think,
Or like Mulligan,
Right, right, yeah,
purchasing
yeah.
Mulligan.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, properties and,
Yeah, right.
right,
um,
with or without.
yeah,
Um,
but, highway projects, like road projects.
Road.
Would the planning board have to approve changes to this, the parameters?
I don't believe so. I think at this point in time, the planning board's out of it because of the vote that was taken, and the selectmen now own it. So, if they wanna look at it, yeah. No, but I think collectively it will all kind of work together.
So personally, I'm feeling like, move the threshold to 15. Move it to 10 years if we can do that. And I think leave out the fund contributions. If we're,
I would lean that way also.
Now, say that again about the fund?
just leave out things like the $10,000 contribution to the technology fund, and then the invasive species fund as well.
So what about the, revolving funds for like trucks and stuff like that? Leave those out? And-
Yeah, because they become, so somewhere in one of these I read about identifying sources of revenue.
Right,
That would be the source of revenue.
Revenue.
right, so leave the funds out, but put the item in for when you expect to
And the cost, yeah.
spend it.
Yes.
Yeah,
So if you're planning on, let's say for technology, let's say you're planning on buying something big system. 25,000, which isn't that big, but it's meeting our
Yeah.
threshold.
Right, right.
And you're gonna keep it for 10 years, at least. So are we talking about how you're planning on paying for it? If you say, I think I might wanna use partially the local operating budget, but I'm also gonna consider using, a fund
Yeah.
that I have. Are we talking about that, or are we
If-
talking?
If you look at our CIP,
Yeah.
like we had the grader on here,
Yeah.
right? And the amount was
Sources.
415,000 in 2026, but as the funding source, we put capital reserve fund.
Yeah,
Same thing, rec revolving fund for the van and the beach gate.
Right.
So you would
But-
exclude them because of the manner in which they wish to pay for it? or-
No.
The item would,
The
the item would be there,
Yeah,
but not,
Not the fund,
the fund, funding the fund.
right.
so we're not gonna talk about funding the fund, which I agree. I think that the
Yeah.
governing
Right.
body should talk about funding their funds.
Right.
Right,
Right.
But I do think that we should anticipate how we pay for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is, yes,
Yeah.
which becomes,
Sorry,
I
yeah,
just-
which
right,
becomes
that-
the fund.
No,
On the
Yeah.
same page, exactly.
and I like that column that kind of had that.
I
Not
do
that-
too.
um,
Helpful.
Not that it's always true, I guess,
Right.
because it can change
Yeah.
depending upon
It's the
what's
best
happening.
point in time
Right.
guess.
But-
Yeah,
right,
right,
Okay.
All you can do is all you can do at the time, and I thought that was very helpful.
Yeah, because one of the things too that we're doing this year is we're asking for that extra money to go into the building maintenance capital reserve. Granted, we have an issue, but that will have a tax impact because we're just trying to raise it.
Yeah.
Without going through the normal, coming out of the unreserved fund balance, so if you start to maybe not fund them as much as you could, but you're trying to keep the tax rate, you know,
Yeah.
but anyway, that's the downside of not funding those we should roll them. I know that, Chris Sterndale and I used to talk, and he had a spreadsheet where he would roll it, everything forward, and we'd look at that.
Mhm.
Right.
And then you could see if what you're anticipating here is actually gonna be paid for through
Mhm.
your reserves like you think.
Right,
And so that might be, I think that should probably be, like, I do think the BOS and the school board should look
We
at
could-
rolling
right.
those and see
Yeah.
really how much they're funding.
Right, right. Kind of look at, I mean, that could be like a separate piece
Yeah.
done after, by whatever, the people who are actually submitting the,
Right, that they have
The
to be able to
requests.
substantiate, we think we can do this in a budget, this is what we're building for, or
Mhm.
whatever, and making sure that they're funding or hoping to fund to plan.
yeah,
One thing that Deerfield does that I thought was interesting is, we have the forms that the department heads have to fill out, right? They included all of those forms, or, short version of all of their forms. I don't know that we want to do that.
I
but
think,
the completed forms or just the standard form?
The
completed.
completed form,
Department
yeah,
heads.
yeah.
yeah, I think initially, when we pulled the stuff together, we submitted it all as a thing, but only
It's a packet.
as a packet, but only submitted the piece to the report with like the summary
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, okay,
the actual,
yeah.
but, yeah, because they are actually technically backup support for the CIP,
Yeah.
Right,
so they belong in this type of document.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that is on those documents that I think we've lost putting in the sheet itself is the priority.
Right.
And like what, Deerfield, by including these form, has, a line for Board of Selectmen priority. And, school would be the same.
Yeah, we used to have that on all
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Maybe in our schedule, we should include within each
So
year
they-
what the priorities are,
So they just use like medium,
footnote it or
Low,
something.
medium, high.
medium, low, yeah, I've only seen medium, low so far. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
high, there's a high, oh, that's the school.
did you also notice on those that they have a score? 20 out of
Yeah,
22,
yep.
or where'd that go? 20 out of, they apparently have a score sheet that goes up to 30. Evaluation, but I'm not finding that on here.
I don't see the score.
And it's split.
It's on the forms themselves,
Each,
I'm looking at
each
the little
form.
formy things.
About
summary
halfway
source
down.
of funds, evaluation score.
Unless I'm not looking, right,
Yeah, Pelham also has
total year,
The
source.
CIP committees.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at this, I'm not realizing that was the score, the 25 out of 30. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
There you go.
Those are hard to come by. I mean, it's kind of,
X out of 30, 27 out of 30.
it's like subjective, right?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
why I
it's a
was
whole
looking to
other
see what it
look.
was, because it was like, oh, that's kinda cool, but I don't
Is
know
it-
how they do
Yeah,
that.
Can we argue over whether it should be 26 or 28?
They have, you know, some of them have the same score, I think.
Yeah,
I like Pelham's priority.
I do too,
System.
yeah.
CIP prep.
And the department heads on our forms do a prioritization.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's high priority.
But of course, those come from the department heads, so they're all high.
Correct, which means that the select board or the CIP committee or the school board should be
More objective.
Right,
more objective, yeah.
right. Looking at it as a whole, which we tried to do some of that this year at least. I'm not sure how successful we were, but
Yeah.
we gave it an attempt that hasn't been done in a while.
For sure.
And justification is one of the things that's noted in this budget book and in the
Yeah.
statute. So I think part of that is the governing body should be getting some justification around the numbers they're putting forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one is this? This is, which town is this one? This one's town. Which
Which one are you looking at, Jim?
I'm currently looking at, I have no idea. I gotta scroll back to the top to see what town it is. This is the Barrington one. Barrington's also 10 years.
Pelham uses their priority system as U for urgent, C for committed, N for necessary, D for desirable, F for deferrable, R for research, and I for inconsistent.
That's pretty subjective.
So, well, wait a second. I like the one that, I like committed, because that way you say, okay, yes, this is definitely on our plan for this period. We're committing to do that.
Yeah,
You know, it's, that becomes
it's
your.
under contract or.
Right, it's, or not necessarily under contract maybe, but it's like, okay, our long-term plan and priority needs say we need this to happen here, so we're committing to that. Whether it's, not funded or it may not be a high priority per se, but it's something that is recognized as a commitment that is being made. You know, something like, for us, maybe doing the cruiser every, you know, replacing a cruiser every 3 years is a commitment that we've kind of accepted and made, so we're committed to doing that.
The urgent one kinda threw me. I was reading through that a little bit, and I'm going,
It's like that.
we're looking at a 10-year plan or 6-year plan or whatever, and then this thing becomes urgent. So I can understand if you're in that year and you have to move it up,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay,
Right.
that's urgent, I understand that.
Or something hit the fan.
But I was trying to, I was looking at the road grader and saying, so you really wanna have it on the CIP because we really wanna do that, but it was scheduled pretty much for that year, maybe you slipped a year, but pretty much scheduled, and so does that mean it's urgent now or not? The committed thing I like, that portion of it. As somebody,
Hopefully you don't have too many urgents.
correct,
yeah.
as someone who has submitted documentation for CIP use, and they find that their stuff wasn't committed, is that a problem? To me, it seems like they wouldn't submit stuff next year. I kinda looked at that list and I went, that's rather subjective, given by a bunch of people that might be doing the right thing, but what comes out may not necessarily reflect the proper picture, I guess.
Mhm.
If a committee like this said, these 7 are committed out of 20, we're committed on, then budget committee might say, for instance, well, those are the only 7 we need to look at. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Shouldn't the BOS be the one saying what they're what's committed as they come forward? That really, I mean, you can't have another,
I would
we can't be telling
expect-
you guys what
right.
needs to be committed, because you know better.
Right, I would expect that. So like,
The same with the
when
school
we went
board.
forward,
Yeah,
right, yeah. So we went forward with things this year that we could commit to because of funding and budget and fitting into the budget and our budget cap.
Yeah.
Knowing that there were other things that, you know, we can't commit to, although they should be on the CIP.
Right.
You really can't commit to anything beyond the current budget year.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, you really can't. I like the idea of that, I just wonder if it's gonna get confusing for people.
yeah, it might
And
be.
if you stick with the high, medium, low, then your assumption would be that the high ones are the priorities, right?
Right, yes, that's your assumption.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems too
It's a-
problematic
it's a-
to me, honestly.
To what?
It seems too problematic to me.
I mean, it's
the
interesting, I
high
like
to
how it
low.
looks, but
Yeah,
it-
yeah, yeah,
there's a
exactly.
lot of
Look at that,
subjectivity
look at
to
that
it
scene,
when you
but
start
I
trying
think,
to.
I mean,
I
it
think
was-
it's a bag of worms, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the committed word is you know, I liked the word. You
It's
know,
good to have
it's
you
a-
committed to your
Right.
projects,
Right.
and putting
It-
forward
it-
and putting effort in, so
Yes.
this isn't all just a silly,
Yeah.
OpenGov has a really good write-up as well on how to go about these. But I mean, we go through this all the time, we get all kinds of things from departments, and people really need certain things, like new flooring or whatever it may be, and some of the things we can't commit to either. That's, not everything makes the budget, not everything's gonna make
Right.
the CIP, not everything will be high priority.
A grant shows up and you can get something different.
Right.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
decision.
yeah, it's like-
Yeah,
But if you think about the process, right, let's use the town, the department heads give it to the select board. They've
Mhm.
got their priorities, everybody says hi to everything. The select board looks at it and says, okay, we need to balance,
yep,
right? And they determine what's high, medium, low.
Mhm.
And then the school's doing the same thing. And then when it comes to this committee is when we should also doing the high, medium, low on it, because we're looking across the board.
right, we have to look across school and town
Yep.
and say, oh, you want this and this in the same year? That's probably not a good
Yeah,
thing.
but-
Can we do HVAC and a grader in the same road, in the same year? You know?
But I guess the reality of that is, if you put a priority on it, but then the priority drops, then don't you kind of move it out a year? And then
Kinda, yeah.
then it gets the high priority back.
Fair, it'll be high priority next year.
Next
Yeah,
year.
which
Right.
is, I think is fine.
Which I think is fair.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, yep, that's fine. So we've agreed to, we're gonna go out to 10 years.
10 years,
Yep.
I got that.
Yeah.
Check.
3 years useful life, we said.
All right, useful
Right,
life of
we're-
3 years? We're good with
Or
that?
do we wanna do 5?
We talked
I-
about that.
I would say 5 would be the very max, but I'm good with 3, sticking to 3.
What do we say now? Do
We
we
say 3 currently.
3 now?
3 minimum.
I would say 5 would be the very max that I would be comfortable with.
Could you give me a 4?
What would be an example of a capital asset that we would buy that would only have a 3-year lifespan?
A police cruiser potentially.
Yeah.
I think that's how they ended up landing on 6, because it was capturing some of those, but I mean,
Yeah, right.
I think it is, everything here says by the statute is between 6 and 10.
That's what it says in the statutes?
Yeah, well, no, that's,
Useful,
what you're
that's-
talking about is,
That's
you're talking
that's
about what the CIP shows for years.
not the useful
We're
life.
talking about useful life.
Well, the useful life is what you show for years, no?
No,
No, we're talking about how many years out we're looking.
That's your schedule.
Oh.
But then within that, it might be something
But if we're
Well,
gonna
it's 3 years or
say,
5
give us your
years.
plans for 10 years, then aren't we gonna look out 10 years?
we're gonna look
Yeah.
out 10
Yes.
years.
The useful life is we're buying this truck. how
Yep.
long will it last before we have to replace that truck?
So that's when you're saying basically you're getting into obsolescence. And so you,
So if the useful life of something was 3 years, you'd
Mhm.
see it in a 10-year plan 3 times.
yeah,
There
so
you
you
go.
don't,
Right.
I
Perfect.
mean, I don't think that's, I think that's getting too confusing. I mean,
Well, if you had what's an example
So,
of capital?
I know.
Well, I'll use something as an example that's not at the cost. It'll be a lower cost.
Yeah.
So, say we have computers, basically a computer useful life is approximately 3 years. And if your plan is to replace the computer every 3 years, you would say, okay, in my 10-year plan, I'm gonna replace it in year 1, year 4, year 7, and year 10.
and the reality is that most of us have a phased plan for multiple laptops and computers.
Right.
And
Right.
so we're saying, you know, we're
And
asset
plus-
tagging this stuff and we know when you hit 3 years, we're gonna start to phase you in, so
Mhm.
our budget's gonna look.
Right, I mean, and plus, that's not a real thing, I mean, it's not a real capital improvement item because it's way under the,
Right. And then you come
Value.
in the software piece.
So
too.
did we agree that we're gonna bump up from 10 to 15?
We were at 6, I thought.
No,
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 for
no.
the dollar value.
we
Oh,
didn't,
yeah.
we didn't,
We talked about it, we
we-
didn't decide.
I'm not sure, I thought we decided on 15 or 20, but we
Okay.
actually didn't choose one of those.
Okay.
And there was talk about jumping too far, so I'll go with the 15.
15?
I'm good with 15.
I'm good with
15,
that.
okay, we're gonna jump to 15.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
so
circle
here's,
that one.
so the reason I asked that question is because that means, if we look at all these numbers together, if something costs 12,000 and its useful life is only 2 years, it will not appear on our CIP.
That is correct.
Yeah. And I can't think of an example of what that
I
would be,
know, I
but,
can't either, but,
you know, but that, it
The-
has to meet all of
the
those
pickleball
criteria.
court.
yeah.
The pickleball court.
Well, that'll last longer
Oh,
than,
hopefully, yeah.
it better last longer than 2 years.
New
This is-
pickleball
This is
paddles.
New England, and you're talking pavement.
Well,
Anyway.
it's not gonna get plowed or salted and sanded, so it'll last longer.
Well,
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, and so at some point, I wanna try and figure out at what point in time we wanna start doing CIP and have a deadline date for CIP prior to budget.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't think we're there yet, but I mean,
We should have that.
so how about useful life?
Right, back to useful life. How long?
I mean, fine with 3.
Yeah, I'm thinking 3 is probably good.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anybody? Any?
Well, you know, it's trouble, I go up to 4. 5 was your maximum, right? I mean, I'm like an auctioneer, really, you know, anybody give me a 4, anybody give me a 4, anybody give me a 5. I
The,
live at 3.
The 4 might make
So, you
less
go with 3?
items.
Hmm?
I'm sorry, say
The
again.
4 might make less items on the list.
Yeah.
It might,
Yeah.
right, but is that,
Is that,
That's not our,
that's not necessarily our
Goal.
goal, right?
right.
yeah,
Our goal is to try and be realistic.
I'll look at it this way. Most of our office terms that we vote for are 3 years.
Oh, that's a
Right.
good point.
So,
We're
I-
obsolete
all right,
in no time.
all right, so 3, let's go with 3.
we'll go with 3.
So maybe we're on the list.
I feel obsolete.
All right. You gotta re-up. All right.
I recommend that this group also sign up to BCIP next year.
So-
So that we can live with the implications of our
Oh.
decisions.
We were so wild with our changes.
Donna, come on.
So Skip, you can be a public member if you're willing to remain. That would be
There's
good.
no escape for you, Skip.
You never know how this plays out, but yeah, we can do it.
You never know. That doesn't sound
I-
committed.
well,
That doesn't sound
What's
committed
that?
to me.
It might be an alternate to the
Oh,
plan.
that's
I'm-
fine.
I'm ready to
Yeah,
win
that's
for budget
But-
committee.
No, no.
Howard.
if alternates are done, how does the alternates work anyway? They just get appointed, or?
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Is there, because that's like, I guess this is kind of off topic, but I would just, do you have to have a full board to make decisions or something, or why is there
don't have to
alternates?
have a full board, but if you don't have
A
enough.
quorum, right,
Or
okay.
quorum.
So is there like, a lot of times when a quorum doesn't show up or something, potentially?
Can be,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Most people that sign up for planning board are somewhat committed, both ways.
always. Okay, all
Back
right,
to the
sorry.
topic at
So
hand.
back to topic of hand. All right, so we're moving out to a 10-year plan. We're gonna bump the value up to 15,000, K. There's a K at the end of that.
Usable life is 3 years.
Usable life is 3 years, and we're leaving out the funds.
Yeah, so I wondered though if we do want to give specific examples of what should be included, like vehicles, buildings, some studies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, so if,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and that probably should be, we probably need like an instructional form, an instructional sheet to go with the forms, so that,
And you have to choose which one of those categories it is.
well, no, I wasn't gonna say make the form super complicated. It's just say, here's your instruction sheet, here's your form, fill out.
here's what,
Yeah, you get one instruction sheet and a bunch of form, or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't want, otherwise our form's gonna be 14 pages.
But we could, just by way of example, buildings, vehicles, land, some studies. Do we wanna say technology?
I would say studies associated with buildings or land.
Associated with a capital asset.
Yeah,
Asset,
well,
yeah.
except that that's
Redundant,
kind of where
yeah, circular.
it falls apart.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But-
capital assets do have a definition.
Yeah.
Right.
And in there allows the capability for those studies to exist,
Mm-hmm.
but it should be, we shouldn't be identifying studies on studies.
I mean, it could be technology things, it could be like, right,
If you're gonna buy a server, or if you're
Yeah.
gonna buy.
right.
We can
Or-
say major technology
Right,
purposes.
I mean, obviously, it's gotta meet that criteria of
Yeah,
15K, so,
yeah.
But some studies is just too vague, I think it.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Something
right, and I mean,
specific.
that's, yeah. I mean, right, and the study's gotta meet that 15K as well.
Yeah,
Right.
One thing they say here too is you could look to your impact fee
Yeah,
and the rules around that, because they dovetail.
yeah, that.
One
that's-
useful starting point is the list of improvements included in that.
Yeah. The
Although that's
the study
limited.
to do the impact fees can cost money,
Yeah.
but the impact fees are based upon the existence of something in the CIP, although that's never said.
Yeah, that's true, I know that.
Never said that.
We're
way.
aware of that, though.
But it's gotta be a major asset.
Yeah.
Major asset, a major addition or, building of an asset to handle impact, growth impact.
growth, right.
And so you can't just do a study to say, we're gonna charge you impact fees because in 20 years, we're thinking about building a school.
Right, but that's a good reason to have it out at least 10 years to see, because that
Yeah.
needs to be adjusted, those impact fees of what they go to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you're just giving them back.
well, yeah, yeah.
So, if we say, so 15K, 3 years useful life. And then can we say something like, it covers buildings, vehicles, land, road construction, reconstruction, major technology purchases, studies associated with buildings or land, recreation program equipment, and other physical assets. Does that kind of cover it?
I think so.
I think
That's a pretty good shot.
it's a good start,
Yeah, yep.
you know?
Yeah.
You gotta start someplace.
We'll think of
Exactly.
something else eventually, but I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're saying here, infrastructure projects, land acquisition, buildings, or engineering studies for any of those projects, and may include vehicles or highway maintenance equipment. So it's similar to what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like adding,
Close.
I like adding, infrastructure
Infrastructure.
projects, yeah.
When we
And
put our
engineering.
sewer
When we put sewer.
So it's really something
Or
that's
that
high
airport.
cost
Yeah,
and multi-year.
Not-
I miss the airport we used to have.
Any contract for that would require.
Nottingham International Airport.
Absolutely, yeah.
You see it now?
Hmm?
You see it now?
The airport?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. It's not, it's like, what is it now? It's like a, well, I haven't seen it in a few weeks at least.
Yeah, well, they got the end wall on now, and some of the sidewalls. It's looking, it really looks like a hangar that was built on the runway, but it's for dressage horses or something.
Yeah, or something like that, right?
Is this the place down on Stage Road?
Down,
Way
No,
down.
152,
yeah,
Yeah,
near Route 4.
yeah,
yeah.
where the airport used to be.
Yeah.
That
it's a
big
weird
field
setup.
where they used to land the plane, and like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
what's
well,
happening there? I haven't seen anything.
Oh, just like-
dressage horses?
It's what a big town.
Dressage horses, you said?
I think so, yeah.
You don't
It's
know.
riding ring.
Yeah,
Only out there for
Yeah.
like 2 minutes a day. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
so,
We digress.
no, you gotta have a little tangent.
I know John has a hard stop, so.
No, I don't anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No,
I do.
No.
because you got your watermelon.
No, no, because it's, my trainer is on vacation.
Your personal trainer?
Yeah, my personal trainer is on vacation.
Okay, so the other thing we talked about was the ranking. So do we want to go with, I'm sorry, the prioritization?
Mhm.
Oh, that's ranking.
Yeah, well, do we want to go as complicated as Pelham, or do we want to just go with a high, low, medium?
High, low, medium is,
yeah, I think that's,
I
Good
think,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I think
I
that's
like
good.
that,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
and if we need to, we could go medium, high, medium, low.
Plus,
Low,
minus.
low, yeah.
yeah, there we go.
Super
We,
high.
we could just go A, B, C, D, F.
Everybody understands that.
Super duper high, super high, high.
Just go to the gold star method, you know?
T-shirt sizes.
Okay, do we want to identify, well, I guess we kind of did it in our report this year of the process of department heads, submit their, their requests, select board, school board. Do we want to specifically say something like, it's expected that the select board, evaluates the prioritizations and reprioritizes if applicable or something? Something
Yeah,
better
we
than
could,
that, but,
we could say that.
yeah.
I mean, it's gonna happen,
think that's-
right? That's
Yeah.
the-
Right, I
The
think-
school board and the select board are gonna look at the list and put the priorities.
Well, that's what we
With
want.
input.
That's what
Right.
we want to happen.
Right.
I don't know
It
if in
didn't-
the past we've just basically said, well, in the past, this process hasn't been taken that seriously,
Yeah,
Right.
so here.
No, I think that's good to put it right, yeah.
one thing they're mentioning here too is that you have to consider current projects that you're funding, and then these new things that are coming in, and it's just,
Well, yeah, I think that. So, okay, So if that's, well, I
Or
guess
10
maybe
years
this is the
in
question.
factory.
Well, it's like when you're building the school, there are costs along the way,
Right,
but you did the bond thing for the school in a particular year that was in there, right? And then,
so that is the bond pieces that I'm questioning, because remember we said we would, we wanted to, we split it out for, you know, if the bond is
Cause it's
10
all not
years.
1 year,
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, you
And that's-
amortize everything
I mean,
over.
and we amortize, right, we did that amortization, so our current stuff, we would still have, so if we had a bond on something and it's 5 years in, and it's got 5 more to go, we would still have it on there for 5 years. Cause it is associated with a capital asset.
Right, and
Or
that
like-
can be a breaking sort of item for other new projects until that's completed.
Yeah.
It would come into the
Right.
new one,
Yeah.
like
Right.
understanding the
Yeah.
commitments.
you'd wanna
Mhm.
have the
So
total
if,
for that
if
year.
we have, if we purchase something that's $1 million and we have bond payment, I'm horrible at math, but if we had bond payments and
Just,
they were $200,000 a year,
yeah, for
then
how many
we would
years
have,
it is.
whatever, I'm bad. I can write, I can't
Public
do
math.
math.
Public math is terrible.
Donna, $10
One, two,
for
three.
5 years.
But even though we've already paid for 2 years, you're saying for 10 years, we would show the $200,000 bond payment. Is that what
Yeah.
you're
For
saying?
the
If you've got
remainder
this-
of your
For the-
years.
yeah, yeah.
But how many did you say it was, for 12 years?
Well,
For
never
a 12-year
mind, John.
bond? We're having a 12-year bond?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then to our list of things that we include, it should be bond payments for capital investments.
Yes,
oh, yes.
yep. Bond payments for capital investments. I'm glad you're taking some notes.
See, this, I
If I
think
don't, I
this
won't
paragraph
remember.
here covers it.
Because my notes are gonna be really sloppy.
This paragraph right there, I think that really covers what you're talking
Oh,
about.
as soon as it says fiscal analysis, my blood chills. The planning board or committee should obtain or create a comprehensive list of all the trust funds, capital reserve funds, special revenue funds, and other funds, and the balances. Other important information includes the most recent tax rate, fixed costs going forward, such as bond payments or other debt service, and the
Which you're
past, present, and future expected revenues and expenditures and debt. But yeah, you do want to get a picture of that full year of,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we should be doing that when we're looking at it, understanding.
Mhm.
And then that goes into your timeline, because we're gonna have to figure out with our audits and everything, what we have for audited financials, how much unreserved fund balance we have, and how much we can fund in our reserve accounts. So that has to be taken into consideration when we're trying to estimate and come here.
Right,
I don't get that.
So if we're trying to figure out, if we're taking into consideration all of our fund balances and our bonds and everything like that, for us, things close June 30th. We're probably not gonna get audited until,
Yeah.
you know, we wanna get audited earlier, but let's say it doesn't, we still don't have our audit from '24, they started in July. So you don't know what you have for an unreserved fund balance to know what you can fund into those capital reserve accounts.
It's more fun that way.
So we really should try to tighten, honestly, my opinion of it all is to kind of start
Yeah, the timeline.
with each
But
group,
we're not doing,
shortening this timeline and getting our audited financials sooner,
Yeah.
knowing what
Yeah,
our
we really
unreserved
do.
funds
but we're
are.
not including capital reserve funds.
No, but we're
Yes.
thinking about it in our thought process as the
for the funding.
as the board of selectmen and the school board to try to figure out what we can
So we're
fund.
putting something,
You know,
We're
because we're
putting
still
something in-
maintaining the funding
we're
column.
putting it at year 6, is it realistic based on how much we're funding up to that? Yeah,
Right,
I get it.
But I also think we can get, I think personally, we could get firmer on our side about, hey, if we want our books closed, we want a soft close,
Yeah,
and by August, we want preliminary stuff done, and that means we should have audited financials. I mean, ideally, by the time the DOE 25s and the MS 25s are due,
yeah.
Mhm.
we should be
Yes.
able to
Oh,
put
yeah.
in
Yes.
audited numbers, because any fluctuations, that affects your tax.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have to adjust for it later, which has a bigger, or, you know, bigger blip to you,
Yeah.
so.
I don't think we have to get to that level of information in the CIP.
No, but you
No,
would-
but
would
they
help
need to
us
know it.
our ba- our
Right.
You
balances.
guys
They need
should,
to, right,
for
we
sure.
need to know it
To
for,
give this group
100%.
good data.
Right.
this is not
That's
good.
not moving funds to.
So I was looking at Barrington's, and I'm trying to comprehend,
Do you want a
What-
big copy?
huh?
Do you want a big copy?
No, good. And this was one of the things that kind of bothered me about what we did, because it appeared we put in fund balances at the bottom of what kinds of stuff we had and what we were expecting for funds as they went across. Barrington's only seems to be a total of what is on the CIP. So I can't confirm, for instance, that they have dollars that go like 10 or 20 years. Oh, maybe I just found it.
Cardiac monitor.
Yeah, okay, they put their reserve funds at the top. Annual
They're not showing,
total for capital reserve, okay.
they're not showing, funding sources for each of their ones either.
They got a lot of words.
They do have a lot of
There's
words.
a lot of black and white, yeah.
At the top of their CIP is the total request financing each year for these things. We put ours at the bottom, that's why I was looking at the bottom.
Oh, right, okay,
Um,
got it.
Okay,
What they're talking
but
about
what
now.
we don't know from this list is how much of this is like a bond or something?
Yeah, they don't do their funding
They all
sources.
seem to be capital reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think they would have
So-
some bonds in there.
That's
What's-
fine, I mean, I don't see that as a CIP deal where we could report that, but somebody's gonna give us that information,
Submitted by departments.
right?
They do have that page.
I was just trying to find something that confirmed that bond payment across the board. Cause that
Oh, yeah.
obviously affects the bottom line of the CIP. It's kind of like, if we want to build a building, what was the number, Donna?
$50.
$10.
$1 million.
We're building a $10 building.
Yeah, $1 million, it's on the CIP, working its way to the date as $1 million, and gets added in for each one of those columns.
Mhm.
And then once it gets to the point that it's bonded, then it's no longer $1 million, it
Right.
becomes the
Yeah,
You break it out.
smaller amount,
yeah.
which seemed kind of weird to me, but not really, I mean, it's, here are your proposed costs, and now, again, your proposed costs as to what they are.
Beats and asterisks.
Yeah, they don't really have much detail. They got everything listed out in their chart, but they just say total request for financing.
Right.
And then
This
they
is-
push
this is
that
brand
number
new though,
out
right?
over the years.
Maybe this is a work in
Yeah,
progress
they've
too.
got 10 years.
Yeah. They do a
I think-
$200,000 chunk and then they take the rest of it in 25,000
Yeah, yeah.
increments.
I think it's fine,
I don't
I was
think-
just,
It's gotta be current, because it says 2025 to
Right.
2035.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely current.
So we now know what our criteria is for being on the report. We know what schedule we're gonna look at. We know what our prioritization, scale is gonna be. We know what the process is. Do we wanna talk about whether we want to go to the extent of doing a full report that has more background information in it, like these three towns have done?
Well, I don't necessarily think we want to do a report like Barrington. Just, just looking at it real quick, from my brief looking at it since we started this meeting.
Let's start simpler. Do we want a pretty cover?
Yes, I vote for it becoming.
Yeah, I don't think we have to be as long.
I mean, it would, yeah, be It's a little more
Deer,
professional.
Deerfield is pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's, you know, so you probably wrote more about our process and included in our town report than Deerfield has.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, they have a pretty little chart, though.
they do, I like it.
No, those are weird.
But then,
No, not really.
then starting like at page 7, you know, then it's, you know, here's your
Some of this,
requests.
Yeah,
You know, so we're gonna have those anyway, so that's
Right,
supporting documentation, which really should be somehow managed. You know, is some of this relevant to the CIP? Issues building permits per year? You know, that's,
Just supports the growth, kind of, I mean,
yeah, the
these-
same with the
these are-
population information, I do think that's important.
these are very large, to me, large CIP reports.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well, they're all like,
Yeah.
what, 15 to 20 pages or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Right now, it seems like our CIP goes into the town report,
right.
and 2 pages, I think, is enough.
Yeah, I mean, right, other than we keep that supporting documentation someplace, which are those requests,
Yeah,
that Deerfield published,
right,
you know, and anybody could request to see those.
right.
And we do have a page that was given to us on population information, remember, is it, this isn't even accurate population information?
Right, and I don't wanna be the one republishing something that
Correct.
is
Yes.
already published someplace and, you know, has different values depending on the day you look at it.
Right.
Or what
right, you'd have to
sources.
consider where your source documents are
Right.
coming
Yeah,
from,
yeah,
whether
that
they're, you
has
know,
to be-
so,
And they
But
have
the
to be
town
consistent.
report typically has a building inspector's report.
Right, exactly.
You know,
All that stuff's in there,
is all part of
already
that
in there.
package.
so I think if I look at what we did for this past year,
department, and that's where you start to see the finances.
we've got like,
Yeah,
what is,
Yeah.
what is a CIP, why is it important?
Yeah,
How to read the plan, relationship between CIP and operating budget. I think that all works, and then we probably just wanna add in the criteria
Yeah,
and
Mhm.
give
That's-
the examples of what's,
right. What you did last year was the best cover that I've seen on a CIP since we started doing it.
well, it was a little more process
Right,
versus,
right, no, it was good. It was very good.
you know, so I think if we take that and just add the
The-
criteria in.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Now, here's another thing I just remembered. I think all of these were done by, Barrington was done by the town planner.
no.
Yes.
The other
Town
ones
planner.
were
Oh.
planning board.
Good catch.
So Barrington's has to be big, because they were paying
Right,
somebody.
they're paying somebody to do it.
Right.
And
So it had to be a lot of
pretty too,
words.
Right.
Pelham was planning board. There was a committee, but it also identifies the planning board. So to me, it seems like it was a planning board subcommittee perhaps. that was
Right.
doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Which,
and they did, the National Regional Planning Commission helped them, it says, in Pelham,
Mhm.
with assistance
Yeah.
from.
I don't know that that's important. It just says to me that,
Somebody's paying something.
Yeah.
well, but if we're doing it for the town report, then we
Right.
don't need the big thing.
Right, we don't
If
need
you're
it.
doing it as a standalone report for somebody else, you probably do.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
So I do think we stick with what we did, but that just add in that criteria,
Mhm.
so it's pretty clear.
This has been fun this year, I've
Is it?
enjoyed
Yeah.
this, actually.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
was running out of the house today and I was getting like, oh my God, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
CIP is gonna be fun, don't worry.
I almost started a nap and then I remembered we were meeting and I, oh. Abort. It is great. It's really helpful to see these, Donna. Thanks for sending these.
Yeah, well, I was like,
You were Googling?
I was just sitting there Googling.
You were doing the Google?
See,
Nothing else to do.
I was just gonna say.
What a
I
sad
don't
life,
know where all my retired days go.
Exactly.
I was sitting there doing motions, back to like updating motions for the last 3 years, and then I saw the email, I'm like, shoot, is that 5 o'clock? And it was 3:30, I'm like, it's 4 o'clock.
Did we buy so quickly?
I know.
But yeah, I think that these are interesting.
I hung up my call.
Jumped in the car.
Well, no, the call was supposed to end at 3:30.
Oh.
It didn't end till quarter of. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was not as late as some other people.
I
I
do
think
not
casting
miss
aspersions our way soon.
Yeah, sure. I do
Yeah.
not miss conference calls. Nope.
So, okay. What
So
else is
when-
what else on our agenda?
When do we send out the information forms to the department?
Yeah, the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, nope, that's a good point.
Yep.
So we should probably around the same time that they're thinking about budget, that they should be thinking about budget. So, you know, July.
Well, no, if we back out of
Yeah.
when,
Reverse
when the
engineer.
stuff is needed.
Right.
Right? So if we back out from there,
I mean, honestly,
Thanksgiving to me seemed like a good
it should be an
good
on.
end point for us.
Right.
yes,
That
To
sounds good.
end.
yes.
End point.
End point
Yeah.
for CIP, rather than what we did last
And then
year.
that's great, because then that's when budget really
Yeah.
starts to.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
Right,
seems
it
like-
should be, yeah, and it doesn't have to be tied to budget, because it should be ongoing, you know, it's like, oh, no, we now need a new UTV.
So when would this group meet for the first time to look at?
Well, I was thinking around Labor Day.
Okay, no,
I mean, we could meet like on a regular cadence, a short meeting, just to kind of do stuff, make sure that we, you know, send out, okay, maybe it's time we send out these letters, so we have a meeting to make sure the forms are good.
Right,
And stuff
right.
like that, just to,
But does Labor Day sound like the right time to be sending the forms out?
September,
A week
so
or
that's
something, or-
beginning of September.
You know,
How-
it shouldn't be that hard because they've got the forms already, right? So it's an updating.
Right.
It should be updating, but now this year, we just added 3 years.
Let's give them 2 weeks.
We just said, oh, by the way, go out, not just 1 year,
Yeah.
go out 4 more years than than that one you were expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give them the time of year. I would think like the second week in September. Just give them a little time after.
When was the deadline for them this year?
Wasn't,
Well-
I mean, we kind of like,
Dribble to dribble.
yeah, we worked hard to get things kind of pulled together. I mean, most of the stuff was there, but the stuff just kept changing, because
Yes, yeah.
we had a lot of, you know, flex in there.
there was a lot of movement because of the budget process. That's
I think
why I
so.
was looking to get it out of that scenario.
Right.
Yep.
It shouldn't be, it's related, but not
With these guys do it.
tied to it, you know?
Well, I mean,
It's a useful document after we get done, but
You guys, as you're building your budget, are gonna use it as input.
Right, we should be using it as input to
Yeah.
build our budget.
Yeah.
And same with you.
So,
I think you should do it first,
Right, it should be done before budget.
and then these are kind of like your sunk, you have your contractual stuff and your sunk cost, and then
Mhm.
once you have this plugged in ahead of time, then you can get your optional stuff, and then you finish the last, quarter of the budget.
Right.
But I see no reason why
And,
we can't be outside the initial heated part of the budget process.
right, I mean, yeah, I was saying it could be done any time of the year, honestly, it could be done,
That's true.
it could be done right now.
do you think it's reasonable to say, so if, we say, okay, we want our work to be done by Thanksgiving, is it reasonable to say we will want the forms from everybody by the end of September?
I would
Yeah,
think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's, yeah,
Definitely,
Yeah.
These
Or
were,
mid-September.
Yeah.
these were all issued, adopted by the planning board in this case, all in either August or November.
Right.
Of the three
Interesting.
that Donna said.
right, they, yeah,
So,
Yeah.
they could be done in the middle of summer, they don't have to be,
That's true.
the, yeah. August 15th, I think it was, November 4th and November 20th. For those.
actually, it might be good to do them in the spring,
After the budget's approved.
after the budget's
After the
approved.
budget's approved, yeah.
Because then you know what you got and what you didn't get.
Right,
And,
Wouldn't that be good to know?
but you still don't necessarily know your fund balances,
no, but
but,
that's,
Know your what?
Fund
Fund
balance.
Oh, fund
balances.
balance, yeah.
I don't disagree.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for you guys, because you're in a different year.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but it gets approved.
July 1st to June 30th.
You're way out there.
Well, no, we'll know
Way
what
up.
happened, right? Because of the vote, we'll know what happened.
Right,
in March.
they'll still know what happened, but so theirs gets, they have a budget at the end of, after town meeting or whatever, and it doesn't start taking effect for,
Until July 1.
right. So their budget's actually
Ahead.
ahead.
Why is this behind?
Right, they're ahead, they have a whole quarter, basically, round numbers, a quarter that they're still operating in the previous budget before they start the new budget that gets approved.
Always confused me.
And,
Oh.
and the town is working in the rears
It's on the
where
calendar.
we're a quarter into the new budget
Right.
that we haven't even voted on yet.
Right,
So you guys are spending out of, starting January 1? Like,
Yeah.
right now, you're
We're
spending.
spending this year's
Yeah.
budget, yep.
Yes.
Well,
Thank
that-
you.
yeah.
Try to explain that to the average
Yeah, I
voter.
guess I never really realized that.
People just are like,
Yeah,
doesn't
we're,
make any sense. I went, yep.
So where are the appropriations coming from?
well, we're basically,
Hoping and
that's,
praying.
no, I mean, no matter what,
That-
there will be a default budget, at the very least, so,
promise to pay.
there's a, right.
Promise to pay.
I mean, and that's the way the laws are set
So
up.
so in
Get
March
reimbursed.
11th, those funds will be released to you in tranches, right?
Well, we don't collect any money, I mean, we,
Right, it's all,
But,
It's-
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, you're
Until taxes
basically
are due.
on a wing and a prayer from
Right.
January to.
yeah, that's the way towns are set
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, I'm intrigued by doing it in the spring, because you do know then.
Right,
Yeah.
You have it earlier in the budget
Yeah, It's
process.
really not a bad idea.
Here's the one question though. What the report we're putting in the town report is then almost a year old.
I know, I was kind of,
That's
So-
the one thing, and I'm
Right.
wondering if that's an issue or not.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is
I don't
either.
think it is. I think it's just the basis on what the outgoing, the remaining portion of the year is looking at from the standpoint of what was created.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's a big deal, but I am confused. If we do it in the spring, the town side will know, but I'm not getting the idea that the school side will know. For CIP.
They'll know what was approved or not.
Mhm.
They'll have their budget,
Correct. And,
but,
and the warrant articles and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So you should be all set then with the school.
We could figure it
Or
out.
CIP.
We just won't have closed even an you know, our books won't close until June 30th, so you don't really know what you're dealing with.
Right.
But
It's just
your
balance.
Well, yeah,
Your balance.
let's say we separate out the fund balances
Right.
for CIP, 'cause I
yeah, because
Yeah.
we
really
don't,
don't see why we.
right, that's more internal,
that's more to us, yeah,
Yeah.
to know how we
Yeah.
wanna, yeah.
How something is planned on being paid for is
Mm-hmm.
fine, just a reserve fund or.
right, because that's what we're including, this, that
Yeah.
column that says, you know, funding source of, you know, fund balance or,
Capital reserve fund
Capital,
or
right, right.
bond or
Whichever.
whatever, yeah, okay, as long as we do that,
Yeah.
then it shouldn't be a problem with the school.
No,
Yeah.
I think we
Okay.
can make it work. I mean, it doesn't really matter if we, to me, if we do it in May, let's say, versus if we do it in July. And the report's just ready and we're not rushing. What the
Right.
heck?
Nice not
we can take our sweet,
yeah,
Hmm?
it'd be
Sweet
nice
time.
to be
Yeah.
thoughtful about these things and not feel so rushed.
Yeah, so maybe we wanna say, like, June or something like that, because then it gives the department heads some
Right.
time,
mhm.
because their head's still reeling after they come off.
And that- right, and then, yeah, yeah. And then pulling meetings together gets hard because it's summer.
Honestly, it starts getting you think, for us anyway, it gets you thinking about if forces
You gotta
Doing
think
the
about the
budget.
next year.
pre-budget exercises earlier, which can never be bad.
No, it can never be done.
John, do you wanna run that by, like, Ellen?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, just to see if she
See
foresees
any
any,
holes
Yeah.
in that, yeah.
challenges
Mhm.
with that.
We're meeting next week, I can talk to the
Yeah.
board too. so-
We're meeting Monday too.
Yeah.
So we'd ask for it back in June essentially, and then work over the summer on it,
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yep.
and then be ready when we're ready. We don't have any real hard,
Well, I mean, I can foresee that if we do that, then as the budget committee starts ramping up,
in September-ish.
September.
Right, we
Yeah.
should have it,
we
It's
can
done.
go to them and
We-
say,
September.
right, we want it would be, our goal would be to have it done before budget committee really starts getting into
Yeah.
season.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, I mean, we have like our first meeting, like, early September, but then we don't meet again until October.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Budget committee, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I kinda miss budget committee.
Oh, it could be an opening.
I'll write in your name.
Yeah,
We'll be the school board rep.
this year was a good year for budget, in terms of people
Yeah.
making progress and talking things out and.
All right, are we good?
I think we might be good.
I think there was some
Was there
progress
anything else on the agenda?
There was something about minutes, but.
Oh, yeah, well, I didn't see any minutes, so.
Yeah, I didn't
I'll approve the minute.
either. Second.
I mean, I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
Second.
All in favor?
We didn't have
Preemptive.
our minutes are not,
Exactly. We're gonna put everything.
yeah, I think Nancy just threw that on.
Okay.
So,
Although there should have been minutes, but,
there should have been minutes,
yeah,
but,
that's all right.
yeah.
So I will clean this up and send it to everyone, but then Suze and John, you guys can use it to review with your respective boards,
Mhm.
get any feedback.
That sounds great.
Yes, we're missing,
Don't
but-
forget Jean.
And Jean, yes.
And Jean.
Yeah, I'll
Yes,
probably
thank you.
just
Oh, that's
reply to
right.
when
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we made some good
all right.
progress.
Look,
Our
look,
work here
and
is done.
we were almost close to my, my hard stop time that I
Charlotte
didn't
still has
actually
time
need.
to go home and take a nap.
That's right, that's right.
I could
It's
go
way
home,
past my nap
I
time.
can go home and take a nap myself.
Oh, it's just so dreary
All right,
today, too.
we're-
Ugh.
It's nice when you retired,
We're
you can take a
adjourned.
nap earlier in the day.